Okay, seriously, I bought yarn at my favorite thrift store, $3.99 a bag, and I think I'm gonna crochet myself a little short sleeve knit. I'm not sure if it's a sweater. Do we call it a sweater if it's short sleeve? Well, I'm gonna crochet myself a little short sleeve t-shirt cute thing. Hopefully. I don't really have a lot of experience crocheting clothing yet. Yeah, I made a whole 1960s crocheted outfit, but that was pretty basic. Going to try something a little bit more detailed. And I have no idea if I have enough yarn. Part of me thinks not, but another part of me is very hopeful. Some of you might be laughing right now going, Carrie, you're out of your mind. But we're gonna have fun! The whole idea for crocheting this top came while I was looking through my favorite thrift store, through their short sleeve knits, and I came across this very light, silky, simple, boxy thing. It had big stripes along the bottom, littler stripes across the top, and then tiny little stripes that made up the cuff. And just the way it was cut reminded me a lot of the way I make my little infant sweaters. One of the places I donate these to calls them pneumonia vests. Very basic, very simple, but it keeps a little one warm. Yes, this is a long sleeve, but simple to adapt it to a short sleeve. Very simple to make. Tube across the body, then 2 rectangles for the top and the sleeves. And that's basically how this top that I saw at the thrift store was constructed. There was 1 rectangle at the bottom for the large stripes, and then the top part with this narrow stripes was another rectangle. And then the cuffs again, rectangles. I like rectangles. Remember the Dorothy dress? All rectangles. Okay, this is basically what I'm thinking. The tube is here, and then we'll go back and forth for the top part, then go around to make the cuffs, sew up part of the way on the top, opening for, the neck. I think what I'll do is this part here, I will use my bust measurement. That'll be the widest part of me. So actually the bust should be somewhere along in here. Just make it go straight down. And then this section here will actually be more, how do I say this? It's going to be larger. Like the width of the sleeve is going to be fairly big of an opening. So I'm not sure how this is going to fit me since I am a fairly busty woman. But it's an adventure. We'll see what happens. I had to start crocheting. I couldn't wait until I felt like setting up my camera and filming. Sometimes you just have to dive into a project. Last night after dinner, I started. Did a round of chains and then started putting the rows of single crochet in. It can be a little tricky doing a round like this, so I'll show you how I started this. Slip knot, hook goes in, and I'm just going to do a bunch of chains to get started. Do a few more. there are my chains. The most important thing when doing a round like this is to make sure that you don't have twists in your chain. The longer the chain, the harder it is to make sure there are no twists, because it wants to twist. Do a slip stitch into the first chain, and there you have your starting round. Chain one to get me up away, and now going into the chains I can do my single crochets. And that's how I started this. So here I am. I just finished a row of white or off-white. And you can see this is where the tops of the stitches are. This is the right way for this round. I am alternating my rounds. I find it easier and faster, I like the faster part, to work into the back of the stitches. So you can see the purple is more prominent on this side and the white more prominent on the other. So I will probably work this. Ooh, now I'm torn. I was originally thinking having more of the purple showing will be better for me, but I kind of like that. I can figure that out later. All right, I have my 5mm hook, put it between the stitches, get my yarn, and I'm going to pull through. I'm going to try and crochet over my ends here. That'll help secure them in place. A nice little space between the stitches. That's where I want to go. All right, I've come all the way around. Now I need to join this round. I'm going to do a slip stitch into my chain from this round. Now I can clip my yarn. I admit I'm using much smaller tails than I normally do because I am worried about how much yarn I'm going to have, if I'm going to have enough for this project. Usually I have much longer tails so I can really weave them in easily. Okay. Now I'm going to flip this over so I can add white next. Again, going into the space between my stitches. Pull it up through, chain, and then going into the spaces between the single crochets of the previous round. I didn't get the tail this time, it just was sticking out the wrong way, but I am getting this tail a bit. And that's it. I'm going to keep alternating white and purple until it is the length I want. Then I will do the sleeves bodice part. See you in a few days. on my stripy shirt again. I'm pleased with the progress. I think we're about at the height where I can start making a little extension for the sleeve. I have changed my mind though about how I'm doing this. I'm not going to do the double crochets up at the top. I really like how the single crochets look. So you have this side where the purple is more obvious. Then you have the other side where the white is more pronounced. I rather like it. I think I'm going to try to make this top reversible. I have started doing a little bit more shaping instead of it just being a straight tube. Give it a little bit of contours for me. And the sleeve, same thing, will be a little bit more snug instead of super loose. This yarn is too thick. It's not going to drape properly to have those nice open sleeves. I'm still going to keep the sleeves fairly short. I think those are the big changes that I'm picturing right now. Let's get to the sleeves. Oh, all right. I'm at the stage with this that I need to add the extension to be able to do the sleeves. This is the seam, the join of each round. I'm going to make this a side seam because I don't want it in the middle of the front. I don't want it in the middle of the back. Arms should cover most of this. So I have already turned this to go the other way for my white round, which means I want to be crocheting across this way. So I'm going to do this side's little extender first, and it's just chains. Now it's a little bit messy here because once I made the decision to make this more form-fitting, I did do some decreases. But I'm just going to stick my hook in and I'm going to do some chains. So there's 10, and I'm going to quickly measure these because I know I want my sleeve to be still fairly small. Only about 3 inches is how far out I want to go. And that's pretty close. So we'll say a chain of 10. I'm going to clip the yarn. Now I need to make sure that I have this very flat and even, because I don't count. So I'm going to stick my hook in. I'm going to call that close enough to the middle. I'm going to do, same as the other side, 10 chains. Because I want 10 single crochets along here, I'm going to do one more chain, and now I'm going to start doing my single crochets into my chains. This first one's a little bit harder to deal with because there's nothing anchoring this tail. So it does want to wiggle around. Now I can start doing my single crochets across the top here. And I am going to anchor this tail. I'm going to crochet over top of it. Have reached the other side. I'm going to do one in here, and now I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to do single crochets into my chain. are those 10 single crochets. So I am done with this row now. I can snip that end, pull it through, flip my work, and now it's time for the purple. Once you have a loop, chain, single crochet, and then just single crochet all the way across. And yes, I'm trying to crochet over top of my ends to start anchoring them. Here we are back onto the other wing. I call them wings. Not sure why, but they remind me of like little tiny wings. And that's the end of that row. I'm not going around, I'm doing a row, back and forth and back and forth. And that is pretty much what I'm going to be doing for a while, is going back and forth. This is my sleeve, as I said, very short. I didn't want it to be very long, just enough to make it presentable for work, and I'm going to add another little cuff on the end. So there's the 2 rows that are part of this, and there's the other wing, the other side, the other sleeve being created. I still have more crocheting to do. I'll see you when this is a lot bigger. I went ahead and started working on the sleeve bodice of the other side just to make it easier for when I want to keep trying this on. It'll be more realistic. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows on this new side. Yes, right now it's laying flat and weird, but once there are more rows on this, it will behave more like a sleeve. In here, as I went across, I just went into the back loops of the chains of what started this row. So there's no sewing the pieces together, it's just crocheted in place. And I did have a little oopsie trying to get this in half to figure out where the sides were going to be. This part that I started first, shorter than the other side. Oops. But not the end of the world. What I'm going to do is make this the back, and the part with more stitches will be the front, because the front has to go around my front. So it works out well. It's looking like a shirt. We're not perfect yet. I think most of this, though, once I put the cuff on it, will gather that down. Biggest thing is the neckline. To rectify that, I think I'm going to add a couple of more rows, but only to the back. That will bring my seam a little bit farther forward, allowing this to fall down a bit more. We'll see how this works. I have tried on the top, and it's not too bad. Still don't know how this is going to look when it's finished, but I have pinned where I want the seam to be. It's not completely even. I want there to be more slack here for the neck. So I'm not going to be matching up stitch to stitch as I sew these together. So next, I'm going to stitch these together, do the same thing on the other side, making sure I count this time how many stitches I'm going across. And then it'll be to add the little cuffs. And I'm not going to do, again, stitch for stitch. I'm going to have fewer stitches going around that's going to gather in the sleeve and give it some form. Shoulder seams are all stitched up, and I have crocheted the cuffs on. To make these, all I did is do a row of single crochets into the very end of the rows going across. And this first round I actually decreased every single time. So I put my hook in, picked up, pulled out, had 2 loops on my crochet hook, but I didn't pull through yet. Went into the other stitch, picked up, came out, had 3 loops, picked up, pulled through all of those. So it still has the height of a single crochet, but I've gone through 2 stitches with only 1 single crochet, so it's a decrease. Now comes the laborious task of dealing with all of these ends. Normally when I do a project, I sew in my ends as I go along, but because I wasn't using a pattern and was adapting things on the fly, I didn't, because there were at least twice where I took things apart and reworked it. And now I'm paying for that. I have a lot of ends to sew in. See you in a few. It's done! Finally. It may not be perfect, but it is comfortable. Certainly nothing like I had originally imagined. Most of that my fault for not really thinking about the materials I was using, but I do like the effect of it. So this is the more purple side, and here's the whiter side. I did make it completely reversible. Yay for versatility. Please let me know which color you think works best in the comments below. I'd love to hear your input. Nice little boat neckline. Certainly not what I had originally imagined, but it did fulfill my 2 criteria. I had fun, and it was an adventure. I think I did all right for my first time attempting real clothes and not using a pattern. Well, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Until next time, have fun and be creative. Just a test, trying to see if I'm in frame. Yeah, I did car. Let's see. Oh, that looks low. Camera test standing 2. I think I still need to be higher. Standing camera 3. I can definitely infiltrate a Romulan party, no problem. It's done. It may not be perfect, but it's a shirt, sweater, thing. I still don't know quite what to call this. It's comfortable. That's always important.